everyone, it's Beverly Cole. I'm here in my studio. Welcome. Today I'm going to help you discover a beautiful background technique that is easy to do, and it features some Nuvo products. I'm going to be using Nuvo Shimmer powder in a couple of different colors, and I'm also going to be using Nuvo masking fluid, which is something a little different for crafting. I am an artist. I do watercolor, and I've used masking fluid for a while now. So when I saw that they were offering that, I was pretty excited about it. We're going to stamp first. We're going to do some heat embossing because with this technique, I really do love what heat embossing does to the images and to the background. So we're going to be using some Sparkle and Sprinkle black. Nope, we're not going to be using that. That's glitter. I'm going to be using this Midnight Madness embossing powder, which is my absolute favorite black embossing powder. It looks beautiful in images, but it also really makes a gorgeous, gorgeous sentiment. So we're going to start with those, and we're going to use my Aster stamp set. I am a stamp designer for Sparkle and Sprinkle, and this was actually, I believe, my first stamp set that I designed. So we're going to use that. I'm going to start with using the anti-static pillow. My brain just turned off for a second. Sorry about that. I'm just going to use it over the surface. Tap off whatever powder is left. You don't want to get that in your embossing powder. And then I'm going to use Versamark ink pad, which is a very wet ink pad. Stays wet longer. Use that to ink up my image. My first image is going to go right up here. Nice crisp image. And then I'm going to use the other stamp that goes with the set. This is Aster with a butterfly on it. I'm going to ink that up next. And I'm going to stamp that near the bottom, just touching the stem of the first Aster image. And then I'm going to use a sentiment, which is actually from another one of my stamp sets. It's from my Wild Rose stamp set. And I'm going to put it right here. It's a little bit on an angle. And while that's all still wet, I'm going to take my Midnight Madness embossing powder and apply it to all of the images. Just going to sprinkle it over there, dump it. Doesn't matter because it's all the extra will just go back into the little vial. Give a little tap and I've got a perfect image. Nice and crisp. Okay. Let me just get my little brush here and brush that out of the way. This is my glitter brush. Clean off my surface. Comes right off my tonic glass mat with no problem at all. Okay, now I'm going to heat emboss. Let me just put away my Versamark. Okay, I'm going to heat up my gun, and then I'm going to heat emboss my image, not blowing it around like a hairdryer. First, I want to just tap off a little bit. See a little bit more embossing powder on there that I don't want. Use a brush to remove any little bits I'm not happy with. All right, here we go. I'm going to heat it up first, and then watch how I do this, back and forth without blowing it around like a blow dryer. nicely embossed. Beautiful, beautiful Midnight Madness. I just love my Midnight Madness. Okay, so now I'm going to do some masking. And that means using Nuvo masking fluid. Now, Nuvo masking fluid, and all masking fluids for that matter, I've known that you do not shake this. I know we all have a tendency, we pick something up and we start to shake it and we're like, oh, look at this, it's so pretty. Well, you don't want to shake this because you don't want a bunch of bubbles. When you apply this, bubbles will just keep the masking fluid from covering your image properly. Now, for a big image like this, you can go ahead and you can take the bottle by itself and you can spread some around like that. But it's difficult to get it into the little parts of your image because we want to mask the entire flower, both of them actually. So I'm taking a container that I keep a little bit of soap in, a bar of soap. Been in there for years actually. And I'm just going to soap up my brush in that soap. And what this does is it protects my brush from the masking fluid. Then I'm just going to take my brush and I'm going to brush into the entire image. I'm going to cover the entire image with the masking fluid. And just like it says, it's a masking fluid. An image like this would be a lot of fussy cutting if you were to cut a piece of mask paper to cover it. Just be a lot of work. But this is just painting, and this is actually kind of fun because you're painting in the image. You don't even have to worry about color at this point. You're just painting it in with this masking fluid, making sure you cover where you want your image to be protected from the color. And in this case, it's the color of the background that we're protecting it from. So I'm just taking my time and I'm covering that image using the amount of masking fluid that I squirted on. And you know, I think I might have even squirted on more than I need. So you really don't need, you can always add more, but it's hard to take it off. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, squirt a little bit and then brush it around. If you need more, then just squirt a little more out. You can also put it right on your glass mat in your palette area and then dab it from there onto your image. But since this was such a large image to cover, that I wanted to cover the entire thing, I figured I might as well just go ahead and squirt it right on there and then spread it around. So I'll show you what I mean though, because I'm going to take some from here and take it down to this image. And what's really great about an embossed image, which, well, it's one of the things I like about it, is that with the embossing, with the masking fluid, the embossed lines help to keep it where you want it instead of getting it all over your background. So it's really nice. So I need a little more. I'm going to take it from here. There's plenty squirted up there. You just need a nice even coating. I've got the butterfly here I'm coating. And if you need to see exactly what your image looks like, you can look at the packaging or the stamp set. I've got some beautiful packaging. It's in color. And you can see where the image is exactly. Sometimes when we just stamp it out, it's hard to see what is the image and what is the background in some spots. Like right here, this little bit is the background, and I don't want to cover that up because I want the color of the background to get into that area. I'm almost done. See, it doesn't take that long because you're not even thinking about color. You're just filling it in with one color, and that is the color of the masking fluid. Okay, a little bit more. I want to just get down here in the stem, just a tiny bit, and I'm done. I'm done. Now this just has to dry, and it doesn't take that long. And if it's a little thick up here, that's okay. It's not going to hurt. Now I already have one done. Here's the one we just did, and I have one here put aside that I've already done, so that we don't have to wait for that to dry. Oh yes, one more thing I did. Let me go back to this one. Sorry guys. I also made some little dots in the background, and I did that just by dropping dots onto it with the masking fluid. And I like to work in triangles or sets of 3, different all the time. You know, maybe not necessarily an exact triangle. I might put 2 together here, 1 down here, I just like to work in threes. I think I need a few more here. 1, 2, 3. And this, when it dries, will resist the color of the background. Okay, so now I'm going to put that aside because I do have one that's finished. And here it is. Okay, so now we're ready to have some fun with this one. Can't wait. So put the soap aside, rinse out my brush from the masking fluid in my little ink well that I keep on my desk. I like using an ink well for water. Here it is. I got this one in Williamsburg at the glass blowing shop. They were blowing glass right in front of us. It was so cool. But that just doesn't tip over, and it's not like having a big glass of water. So I like that. So now we're going to use the Nuvo Shimmer powders. I'm going to use 2 different colors. I'm going to use Cherry Bomb and Blue Blitz. Now, there's 2 different ways, well, probably more than that, ways you can use this powder. One, you can just tap a little bit into your palette area on your glass mat, or whatever mat you're using, or whatever palette you're using. And then you can use a water brush, or any kind of brush, to paint with that. And I can show you that right now. When I tap my bottle before I open it, just because it keeps whatever messy powder that might have ended up in my cap. I can tap it off in my little space, tap it off there, and it keeps it controlled. But I'm going to use this direct to paper today. So we're just going to tap, barely tapping the bottom of this to get a bit of color. This is highly concentrated color. Now I'm going to use the Cherry Bomb, and same thing, just tap it here and there on my background. Okay, now here we go. I'm going to spray it with water. You ready? This is awesome. I'm holding my spray bottle probably 10 inches away from the paper. And the color just starts to move around. I'm going to take my water brush, not using any extra water. I'm not squeezing the water brush, but I want to activate the powders that haven't been touched by water. If you don't use water with the powder, it's going to just fall off at the end of your project. And if you want it to fall off, that's fine. I just don't want it to fall off, so I wet it again. And I can tip my card if I want to. I can tip it around, help the colors to move, to blend. But this time I'm just going to let it sit there, and I'm going to heat it with my heat tool to dry it. I'm not heat setting this. You don't have to. You could let this sit and dry naturally on its own, and it would stay pretty much like it is. I'm going to dry it with my heat tool, and the ink, the powder, watercolor powder, will move around, and that's fine. It's different every time. So let's watch what happens. Okay, another thing you can do is just pick up that extra ink that's on your glass mat. I should keep calling it ink. It isn't ink, it's watercolor. Sorry about that. Now once it's dry, this might still be a little wet, but I want to move on. We're going to take your finger and just rub, and the masking fluid simply and easily rubs off your watercolor paper. Yes, this is watercolor paper. This is 140-pound cold press watercolor paper. We need to use a paper that can stand up to all that water that we used. Regular cardstock isn't going to cut it. You can also use one of those little square tools that we use to remove glue and everything. I think I have one here just to show you what I'm talking about. Yeah, this tool right here. You can use that. I prefer to use my finger tools. And right here are some of those bubbles. And I remove that too. Okay, so I got all that taken off. Okay, now we get to play with more powders. And we're going to use some Atlantis Burst. It's this one. And Solar Flare. Tapping it into the flower areas. Remember, it's heat embossed. I want to use yellow, and I want to use some green. I'm also going to want to use some yellow and a little bit of the pink because we want some orange in our flower up here. Down here, I'm going to just do yellow for now. Okay, so again, wet it. And this is very artsy and fun. It really is. You can move the color around if you like. Just make sure that you got it everywhere. Or you can just leave it and let it do its thing. If you don't want that orange over here, you can have it out. I'm just using a coffee filter to soak up a little of the color. I don't want to do that too much though, just if it looks a little muddy with all the colors may have combined. Because if you combine all the colors, you will end up with a brown. Not always a pretty brown. So this way, you control it. It controls some of the movements, you control the rest. Okay, so I'm going to tap out a little bit of my yellow on my palette area of my glass mat and some of the cherry bomb, just a little. And then I'm going to squeeze out some water from my water brush here. And I'm going to paint. I can paint. I can paint in the areas. I can make my flower stand out by painting it in. Doesn't take much effort. Looks very, very pretty. I'm just going over the entire flower with yellow. Down with my butterfly. I'm not sure what I want to do with my butterfly. I might want to just make him blue. Or maybe I should have just let him be purple. Oh, I need a little red, so I'm going to add a little, squeeze a little water in. Make a little shadow underneath my butterfly. Add some more here. And I'm going to spray again. Okay, so spray and heat. Tip so the color goes down into the flower, making that shade a little bit darker. I can add more water. And the color underneath is reactivating. And I think I'll just make my butterfly blue. There. How pretty is that? One more thing we can do is spatter water. I'm going to put water in my hand and I'm just going to kind of drop it on there and heat it. Let me try spraying. There, I spritzed it. What I'm looking for is some watermarks. A lot of texture, and the water adds texture. I just did it again over here. Sprayed water. And it gives you texture. So there we go. That's the way to get this beautiful background. We started with a stamped card. Here's the one where we masked everything, And then after you mask, you're able to get the colors more controlled in your images. I hope this was fun for you. It was fun for me. And I will have more videos for you coming up. This was my first one for Sparkle and Sprinkle, and I had fun. By the way, to get this flattened out, you're just going to put it, oops, I missed one, look at that. You're just going to roll this through your die cut machine without a die, and it'll flatten it out for you. And then you can make it into a card. Here's another one I made with a different variety. This is my wild rose. Cool, huh? So much fun. All right, I'll see you guys next time. Have a great day.